confronts you in your own... air and confronts you, and so it's different.
But we're going to see the scallop now, and I probably should save the chat till we get there, but you were disappointed, I think was the word you said, that received so much furore.
Well, I couldn't really understand it, because I thought it was one of the more beautiful things I'd ever managed to make. So the first time, some people in Aldborough formed themselves into the voices of the people of Aldborough to get rid of it, and it did upset me, and then it had graffiti on it 13 times. It seems to have touched wood, stopped now.
What is it? The direction now, people pay homage to it, they travel from out, that's why people come to Aldborough now to see the scallop. Here we are, just driving along the coast road at Aldborough, and there is the scallop in front of us, rising majestically. Oh, Maggie, come on, what do you feel seeing that?
I really can't believe it. It's so like the maquette, which was made with real scallop shells that summer. You know, the whole of the studio floors filled with broken bits of scallop shell. And as you drive over, I mean, the maquette, the model book, is exactly like that. It's quite extraordinary. I still can't quite believe that it's here.
Can you describe it for us?
Well, it's essentially a scallop shell reversed, in that the bottom of the scallop shell is flat and the curved bit fits like a lid over the top. But you see, I've made, as it were, the bottom of the scallop shell vertical and the top running into the sea. And it was very important that the flat scallop shell has been broken, because I feel that's what Benjamin Britten did. He took classical music and wrung it by the neck and found his own voice. And so the fact of this scallop shell shattering is about that.
And why the Benjamin Britten connection? Was it always an absolute passion of yours to do something in honour of him? Because he was like your icon.
What happened was that a friend of mine came to tea and said, "Oh, I heard there was going to be a sculpture of Benjamin Britten in Aldborough, and I heard you were making it." So I said, "Vanessa, you're pottier than ever. They don't want a statue of Benjamin Britten in Aldborough. It's been in all the papers how we did not want a statue of its most famous site." So over the next couple of days I got really angry that Aldborough didn't want anything in memory of Benjamin Britten. And I thought, well, I'm going to make something. And it's on the bit of beach that Britten walked every day with his dogs. So I chose this quotation from Peter Grimes: "I hear those voices that will not be drowned." The idea is to read it against the sky as it's cut through the steel.
I feel that's quite a good quote for you as well. You haven't been drowned. Despite the voices trying to shut you up along various miles away. I just love that, you know, this beautiful natural environment has so informed and sort of shaped your work. And in a way, the controversy has been worth it, hasn't it? Because it would be not a Maggie Handling piece of art if a lot of people didn't have a lot to say about it. You know, you've always slightly been on the naughty step of life. And it started good. It started in that ditch. I've got something for you, Maggie. I can see we're losing you. Thank you so much.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
How did you know that?
What do you mean, how do I know?
How do I know?
One thing we all know about Maggie
Goes down all the trees.
she likes to drink. Thank you so much for sharing your supper with us today. It's been lovely to see you out of the art studio. I don't often see you outside.
I do exist.
I know, it's an absolute revelation.
Open Country was presented by Anne Rice and produced by Karen Gregor. It's a BBC Audio Bristol production for Radio 4. And now, Farming Today this week with Charlotte Smith.
Hello, coming up today, turning slurry into gold.
The carbon molecules form graphene.
graphene powder, and the hydrogen molecules form hydrogen, which is a clean fuel.
Could dog DNA tests solve the perennial problem of attacks on livestock?
I came down over the hill and then just could see the sheep littered, injured and dead across the bottom of the field.
And where should we draw the ethical line when it comes to advanced breeding in animals?
That picture that you can see there, those black circles, each one of those is a follicle, and then there'll be an egg floating around inside it.
More on all that later. First though this week, the Arable event Cereals 2024. Our very own Anna Hill was out in a wet field in Hertfordshire this week, along with the thousands of farmers attending. With the general election approaching, she took the opportunity to ask them what they want to see from politicians. Although there were lots of different answers, I think it's fair to say a theme emerged around food production.
From my perspective, it's support for agriculture. And when I talk about support, it's not necessarily money coming into agriculture. It's just, it'd be nice to hear them saying supportive of food production rather than possibly wildflowers.
For me, it's about putting food production first and recognising the important role that farmers play in producing that food, but also managing the environment, and they are really key in doing that.
I'd like them to get a food policy that actually involves growing food and helping us grow food. And it appears at the moment, the direction farm payments got them, we're not growing food.
What would you like to hear from politicians?
More on renewable energy, but not soundbite stuff on it, actual actions rather than talking it. As regards straight farming, in my view, it comes down to who's the safest party in relation to inheritance tax.
We've got a severe shortage of labour. Not enough of them coming into the industry, not enough support, probably not getting paid enough for what we actually do.
I think the only thing that bothers me is all the imports coming in with no assurance behind it, and we have to jump through the hoops, and everyone imports things with no hoops to jump through.
Honestly, I think farming is a second thought that might get an election vote somewhere for most politicians. I don't think they really understand what goes on. I don't think they have any time to understand what goes on. Somebody just needs to come and have a word with the trade and listen to what we've got to say.
Just some of the farmers attending Cereals this year, and we will be talking about what there is on food, farming and the environment in the main party manifestos next week. Now, one of the events at the show was all about the work going on to breed new varieties of crops that are more suited to regenerative agriculture. There isn't a precise definition of regen ag. Essentially, it's a way of farming that focuses more on the health of the soil. It involves things like using more cover crops to protect the soil and using fewer chemicals like pesticides and fertilizers. It is increasingly popular, so seed breeders are trying to produce varieties that thrive with fewer inputs. But Anthony Hopkins from the British Society of Plant Breeders told Anna that trade barriers that sprung up after Brexit are making it harder.
Seed breeding really is an international business. They are using genes from all over the EU and the world to produce the best and most sustainable varieties, which growers want to grow and which gives them the profit they need on the farm. And at the moment, trade is really difficult. Moving seed across to and from the UK to the EU and the rest of the world is much more difficult than it was. It's costing more, there are delays, all of that gets in the way of innovation. And it is frankly meaning that varieties aren't being made available to growers as quickly as they would like, as we would like, and they're missing out on innovation as a result.
Are we behind then the rest of Europe or the rest of the world?
We have examples of varieties that we do not have here that are listed in the EU and available to growers, things like oilseed rape, for example. So most varieties do get here, there's just a bit of a delay before that happens. We want regenerative farmers and every farmer to be as competitive as possible, and that means the latest and best varieties as quickly as they're available.
Well, one person who's been hands-on with research in developing seeds and crops, new crops indeed, for regenerative farming is Kim Hammond-Kosak, who's from Lockwoodstead Research. You're actually running a long-term trial, started in 2022.
Yes, we're basically, with our crop transition experiment, we're really after stretching the rotation, bringing in new cropping species, doing things differently by growing the legumes underneath the wheat, underneath the oilseed rape, seeing how the crop and the undersowed species compete with each other, complement each other, and come up with beneficials as well as detrimental consequences of doing this. But try it out and then start to guide the principles that will hopefully then underpin regenerative agriculture as we go forward.
Henry Barber, Baltic Barber breeder at Cape Rias.
Farmers are pushing for different sorts of varieties to cope with the new systems that they're using.
Yes, they are. I think it is a growing topic in the UK, and I think it's also growing in Europe. So I think first we need to identify what those traits are that farmers want. We need to then adjust the official screening system to get varieties recommended onto the recommended list that farmers choose from, and then we can start breeding for it and selecting for it more intensely.
Henry Barber there with Anna Hill at Cereals 2024. 10 police forces across the country will soon be trialling new forensic technology to help identify dogs involved in livestock attacks. The southwest of England is a particular hotspot for dog attacks, according to the insurers NFU Mutual, with farm animals worth hundreds of thousands of pounds severely injured or killed by dogs there last year. Well, BBC Southwest's Anna Val has been speaking to Christopher and William Daw. They had an attack on their farm in Devon 4 months ago.
Down over the brow of the hill, and then you just could see the sheep littered, injured and dead pieces across the bottom of the field. Saw them, went through the gate to the next field, and it's much the same.
Some of them have been frightened up or into the hedge and they get caught up into the barbed wire, and others were frightened into a ditch, and they were attacked down in the ditch. So it's just absolutely mayhem.
47 lambs and ewes were killed in a savage dog attack. Only one sheep survived its injuries. The attack here was one of the worst Richard has seen this year, and it doesn't stop there. The Southwest now tops the list for the worst in the country for dog attacks on livestock, with many farmers I spoke to at the Royal Cornwall Show having experienced at least one incident on their farm.
It burst through the gate for ewes because they'd been chased by an Inuit, which is one of those wolf dogs. So we had 3 sheep which were dead, and 1 sheep that was ripped open.
I had some sheep attacked late one evening in winter. I lost 3 in the river from drowning, and I had to jump in the river in the middle of December, which wasn't very warm, and rescue one myself.
A devastating event for any farmer to go out and see dead sheep, dead lambs being just torn apart.
Is that what happened in your case?
Yeah.
At the minute, it can be difficult to track the DNA from a dog to an attack, but 10 police forces across the country are about to trial new forensic technology which will enable vets, farmers and officers to collect canine DNA in minutes from the crime scene. PC Julian Fry from Devon and Cornwall Police says he is about to start training people to use the kits within the next few weeks.
We will all have kits issued to us and we'll be testing them over the next 2 years. So we're really hoping that the result will be better quality canine DNA that we can use to get sufficient evidential threshold from.
The trial is due to start across all 10 police forces this summer.
Anna Val reporting there. A world first now, because on a farm in Somerset, methane from slurry is being broken down and turned into hydrogen gas and graphene. Now, graphene is a material that was discovered in the UK 20 years ago. It's normally made from mining graphite rock, but a company called Levidian has developed a process which separates the carbon and hydrogen in methane gas to make graphene and hydrogen. Well, the farm involved is Worthy Farm at Mayland.
One is your carbon footprint drops. The second one is that you create value. All 3 things that the unit does are value creating. The graphene itself is valuable. People will pay money to add it to their battery cells, to their tyres, to their concrete, etc. Hydrogen also has real value, particularly if you make it in a clean way, and there are carbon benefits as well.
Just tell me about the figures then. How much graphene would be produced by a Worthy farm, and how would that translate onto other farms as well?
Worthy farm will make 4 tonnes every year of both graphene and hydrogen. That's enough to power a huge number of hydrogen miles in a large truck, for example, or to decarbonise hundreds of tonnes worth of cement as a material amount, and that's just from one farm. So the opportunity to deploy this to other farms is enormous.
I presume they won't be selling the graphene directly themselves from the farm.
Great question. So if you are a farmer and you're not a graphene expert, we don't expect you to be. What we provide is a decarbonisation service. So we will take the graphene away as part of that service and we'll monetise it.
Yeah, but the farmer then doesn't get the value of it, do they?
Yes, they do. So we buy that graphene back from them. So either it subsidises the cost of the unit or they get a payment per kilo of graphene that's made.
So how much profit do you make out of cow manure being turned into graphene?
That depends on really where the graphene goes. So the economics as a whole, if you add together value from hydrogen, value from carbon credits, and value from graphene, and you can then work out, well, how do you share across the farm site and the technology provider, which is us in this case.
John Hartley there. Now, we've been focusing on the veterinary sector all this week on Farming Today. That's the programme which goes out every weekday morning at 5:45 here on BBC Radio 4, or you can catch it anytime via BBC Sounds. Now, one of the challenges faced by vets is breaking the painful news to a farmer that their whole livelihood is under threat because of illness or disease in their livestock. We've reported before on the programme about the toll bovine TB can take on the mental well-being of farmers, but vets too can be hit. Our reporter Bob Walker has been to meet Jess Worsley, whose family runs a dairy farm near Ashbourne in Derbyshire.
I can't remember up until recently a time without struggling with TB. It's been an ongoing problem for what feels like my whole life, but since the badger club started we have finally gone clear of TB.
What impact has that had on you?
It has a huge impact, just the pressure and the feeling that you're never in the clear of it. We test every 6 months, and even on the test that you go clear, you dread the next test in 6 months' time because you know that you're probably going to go down with TB again. My dad can't even be present when we're TB testing because he just can't cope with it mentally and physically. He just can't deal with seeing his animals be tested and knowing that they potentially could be told in the week after that they've got to be killed.
Also with us today is Sarah Tomlinson.
I've been a farm vet for 24 years. I'm not in clinical practice anymore. I am involved in delivering the TB advisory service. Vets and farmers have genuinely a really good relationship. We become part of a community, and that's what I found really hard, is going on a farm, knowing the impacts I'm going to have with finding reactors. And I've sat in kitchens in tears with farmers. The one thing the TB advisory service has done is given us something positive. We go on farm, it's free time, it's paid for by DEFRA, and we talk about TB as an infectious disease. So it allows the vets and farmers to take some control back.
But nevertheless, for those that are affected, whose herds do test positive, how bad can it get?
So part of the TB advisory service, we have a telephone advice line. I take a lot of those phone calls. What you think is going to be quite a simple, straightforward discussing the test can actually end up being quite a harrowing tale. I know through the vet schools now they do an awful lot of training. They are aware of the support that's out there for farmers and for vets as well, because it affects us. And a lot of vets have even gone out of the whole veterinary profession because they just can't take the daily impacts that TB testing can bring.
You wanted to emphasise there is help out there for vets and for farmers.
There is an awful lot of support out there and people aren't on their own. There's Farm Community Network, RABI, Vet Life for vets to talk to. I do talk to people and I do share how I feel, and I think that's really important. And to share with the farmers that you're going through those TB breakdowns with. Go into the kitchen, take that cup of tea after the test and have that debrief. That's really important.
Sarah Tomlinson there. Well, the list of services that farmers growing thanks to new technology, including advanced breeding techniques for livestock. Tyndale Farm Vets in Gloucestershire are one of 3 in the UK offering IVF for cows. It's a common practice for dairy cows to be made pregnant using AI, artificial insemination, but IVF is more specialist. Although it's fairly well established in beef production, it now has a more too to improve genetics in the herd more quickly. Our reporter Marie Lennon has been to see the process, guided by vet Sam Eckwood.
So Tom's just loading our girls out of pack collections this morning.
You've got another herd due really soon, haven't you?
Yeah, so we'll wash down, clean, disinfect. There's a trailer just behind us that should have some miniature Herefords in. So we get everything.
Come on, darling, come with them. Come on, then.
Good girl. We've got them just stood in the raceway waiting to go in this little building here is the collection room. You can just see the cedar poking out the back end of it, so that's a little progesterone releasing device that sits just inside the vagina, and then she'll have had a series of injections that basically make them grow more of their eggs than they normally would.
And what's the collection process like for her and for you guys?
So fairly rapid. They'll have already had an anti-inflammatory before we started. We'll run them in, they'll have an epidural, and then the whole process will take about 15-20 minutes. You ready, Tom? Yeah. Where Pete's working, he's going to have one hand in the rectum, and then the probe itself sits inside the vagina. Pete will hold the ovary against the wall of the vagina, and then we'll pop a needle through, and then there's a little vacuum that sucks the eggs and the fluid out of the follicles.
That's the ultrasound screen.
And that picture that you can see there, those black circles, each one of those is a follicle, and then there'll be an egg floating around inside it. So we've collected the oocytes.
Yep.
So we'll add the semen tomorrow, and then what we're aiming for is an embryo that's got to the expanded blastocyst stage. A week after we've done all this, we'll come back and we'll basically take out everything that's made it to that stage, and they'll then go out in an incubator. Pete will take those out on farm and he'll put those straight into cows. We'll often use the second lactation heifers, so younger animals that are fertile and can hold a pregnancy. They'll then take that calf on and rear it.
So what's the success rate?
It varies quite a lot. We work on a rough figure of 50% of them will hold and make pregnancies.
I'm David Grease, I'm one of the vets here and the director of Tyndale Vets.
Why were you keen to be really involved in this technology?
The UK is behind the rest of the world on that, and certainly in the US, the numbers of IVF cattle embryos produced is huge, and I can see that particularly for the dairy industry in the UK, that is the future. We know who are genetically the best animals. We can select bulls very easily, but selecting on the female side is harder because a cow can only have one calf a year.